Welcome to the Always a Logger podcast from the University of Puget Sound, where we talk to our alumni who are doing amazing things. Today, we're talking to Billy Smith. He's founder and CEO of Billio, a technical and soft goods design company in Berkeley. Billy is a 2007 graduate of the Business Leadership Program and also has a studio art degree. Welcome, Billy. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Julie.
Thanks for coming on. I would love it if you could start by telling us what Billio does and what your philosophy is.
That's a great question. So I think the philosophy is a good thing to start with. And something that I always go back to is a saying, when will the seed see the flower and will it ever? And, it's always becoming. In the world of design, and especially in the world that we work in, which is textiles, a lot of things continue to change and get created and recreated again. So Billio starts with values and curiosity, enthusiasm, kindness, harmony is a good one. I'll touch on that a little bit more. And through experiences in the past working with Patagonia, doing development and design for wetsuits and other products like fishing waders closely with Yvonne and Fletcher and the team over there for about 6 years. That was the first job after school. I remember leaving Puget Sound, went straight to the tin shed, as they call it there. And then about 6 years later or so, Apple reached out and was kind enough to offer me a position working closely with the industrial design and product engineering teams. So Billio is in harmony, those two worlds, from, you can call it an unconventional side of product and then materials first thinking, to this obsession towards perfection and human-centric experiences. So Apple, Patagonia combined can create a pretty cool spot. And we have in our space currently a wonderful team. We've been in business 11 years, and we haven't taken any outside funding. I'm really proud about that. So
Wow.
bootstrapped from the beginning. And the intent about that was to have full creative freedom and control. And it's hard to say that exists around Silicon Valley.
Or anywhere nowadays.
Right? I know.
Yeah.
In the fast-paced surroundings, doing something slow can be very fast. And I can explain that in the products that we build. So Billio essentially is I don't know if you've heard of the word skunk works, if you will. It's like kind of, we're a partner to a lot of the big companies that you all probably work with and know and use products from. And we're their the dark horse, if you will. So a lot of the products that you would imagine and have experienced in the textile space, especially, we've probably had something to do with some of those. In our space, we have knitting, flatbed knitting. We have 3 different machines. We have, we're in Berkeley, by the way, Berkeley, California. And my brother Nick and I started this, and we grew up together in Mill Valley, not far from here. And we have laser cutting and CNC. We've got splitting and skiving and heat pressing and laser. What else? Ultrasonic, 3D printing and testing and all sorts of equipment. So we can be vertically integrated, not being reliant on outside vendors, suppliers, but more be a partner full-time in-house.
So it's vertical. So you're doing everything from the design, the ideation, to the full-on creation of everything. Right. Oh my gosh, so much freedom. You're your own boss.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. And there's sounds to the space too, and the feelings that you get. I was mentioning earlier before we just logged on, with heart, head, and hands. And those are the three aspects of Billio. We have the heart. When you come in, you'll experience that it's built around things that we didn't do, and it's sharing things that others made. So that's the heart of it. Art, books, music, gifts, souvenirs, and that's a feeling. And then as you go into the space, if you go in through the space, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
If you go through,
you're a busy CEO. We get it.
Yeah, that thing. Actually, it's actually pretty good. That's the thing I'm trying to get away from, and I'll talk about how that can happen through some of the products I'm building.
Interesting.
Really, that's a really good point. But then you go through the heart, and you'll experience, a nice welcome. But then the head of it is the studio, and in there you'll see the library, a lot of materials and partner books that you'll have, a lot of swatches, materials like textiles, for example. This is a care cloth that I play with in my pocket. I'm really proud about this.
What is that?
It's a care cloth. So it's actually a textile by Ultra Suede we developed with them from Japan, but it's so nice. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
But it's a fantastic thing to, polish and clean your objects with. And then we have art here. So this is one of the artist series. I can go into detail a little bit later about it. It's pretty funny.
You know what's really setting you apart is how intentional everything is. Every step sounds very mindful.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It's it's a duty, if you will, or a purpose of mine to
Mm.
make sure how you do anything is how you do everything.
Wow. That's so profound.
I know, right? But it's
Wow.
the way we think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be daunting, but the process is what brings you to the outcome that you're looking for, and it'll come. May not happen overnight. Maybe it happens in 10 years, and that's what brings us to that bag. It's been a 10-year type journey.
So this
Takes
is your
time.
current product that you are. Do you guys release to market or do you release through retailers or wholesalers or all of the
Oh,
above?
so actually, this is great to talk about. We were launching. I think the last time we spoke with the alumni was with the Arches magazine back in 2019. We were looking to do the launch for the bag in August or so, and then we were getting ready. COVID hit,
Hmm.
and we pivoted quickly. But we used the same logic that we've rooted all the way back to where my brother and I were in the garage messing around with surfboards and stuff growing up, shaping and looking at different geometrical or geometric type forms. And we built this bag out of one piece of yarn. The yarn is built into the bag, so there's no cutting or sewing. There's no thrown away parts. You can recycle it if you want to. It's washable. It's repairable. It's I'd say the quintessential Bilio product. That's an architecture of how we think. And in the process of doing that slowly, we realized the mask could be the next thing we needed to do to help um, the world. And when
Right.
we pivoted from the bag to the mask, we created a new thing, which was a three-dimensional shape, and I can show you. So this is actually a silver coated yarn.
Oh my gosh, you'd have no idea.
It's
Especially for
silver,
the novice who doesn't work in goods.
and it's exactly. And
Yeah.
one of the things we focus on is tension, and so we would look at the ways that tension would play a part in your face, in
Mhm,
your
mhm.
movements, and we started to create structures that helped with the breathability and also the ergonomics of your body. And wearables is what we do really well.
Okay.
We do a lot of wearables that could be passive or wearables that could have some tech involved.
Oh
And
my
we
goodness.
usually
Tell me about
start,
that. That's interesting.
yeah, it's incredible to think about, through the lens of Patagonia and then Apple. There's some things nature you can't beat, right? Nature can build something that you would be inspired by. And one of those things is the swallowtail. And the way that the wind and the ergonomics of the aerodynamic aspects of a swallowtail, it's translatable into other things that we do. So we use that as our baseline. And that is like a knit stitch pattern. It could be like a dart, This is technically like a swallowtail shape.
Right.
And you adopt this thinking when we when we look to how we build things, and it really unlocked a lot. So when the mask came around, there was an idea of taking what we did at the bag, and we created these channels inside the knit structure. This one says washed. I don't know who wrote the word WHA.
It was not a Puget Sound alum.
That was not me. I'll tell you that. But like this is, I'll give you, here's a better example. But you see the V, right?
Yes.
It's in the same thing that you'll
The
notice
nature
in
everywhere.
a knit. A
Hmm.
knit has the same little
Wow.
V's,
Okay.
tiny little V's. And knitting is something that set us free. And we started building a lot of things with knitting. And then we started introducing silver. So when you build a passive product that doesn't have any smarts to it, you need something conductive. And silver has two qualities, more than that, actually. It's inherently antimicrobial and it
Hmm.
also is conductive. So when we looked at the mask project, we said, hey, why don't we look at it through the lens of doing two things at once? Let's build something hidden in plain sight, but also built for purpose at both ends. So the development of the mask, and we did retail through a couple select stores, but mostly online through Billio direct. We did over 250,000 of those,
Wow.
all built from the ground up, yarn up level. And
Hmm.
it started with this first prototype. I know this is the last thing people want to talk about, but what
That's
I'm getting
interesting
at,
to me.
yeah, is that we started coming up with this architecture, if you will.
Okay.
So, like, this is the first proto, and you can see these ribs and different
Hmm.
structures inside in these
Yeah.
pockets. But when you put it into context, it's no different. This is the strap that you would put behind the head to
Yeah.
hold it. This here is silver yarns.
Right.
It's still got those little V's. And then we put this little gripper on the bottom. Now, it also works really well as a wristband.
Okay.
And so during, this is good to say now because it's been 5 years, but we work in a lot of secrecy. That's why we don't have much of a website.
Right.
And we ended up coming up with our own twisted knitted cocktail, if you will, and patented quite a bit of the work we did. And this is really a trade secret of the company. And when people were at home during COVID, it was easy to buy one of these. And during that time, we were playing with all sorts of different ways to integrate these types of items inside them, including, you know, something like a wrist wearable that you could have on your wrist and create a very, very, very comfortable band. And
Interesting.
this
Okay.
could be also a handle for a bag.
Right.
So the way we think at Billio is everything and anything. So when we look at something, it's, and I'll quote some old colleagues from Apple. When you look at something and you call it, let's say, a chair, it's pretty, as they said, dangerous to do that because you just killed a lot of ideas with that current.
Oh, wow.
So this is where we go at Billio. Like this here is a whatever we want to call this. This could be like some can call it a tin can, or others could just call it like an airtight, you know, tube. And there's a lot of ways to think about it. But this is the big one. This is the one we've always been working toward. But first we had to build the chassis, all the elements. So pockets, handles, loops, tubes, lozenges, and then you can always throw the passive, make it into a smart later. But to get your physical architecture dialed first was the key. So the Billio bag is that first thing we did. Now this is what we call a mohawk on the bag, but it's something like this that's on the top of the bag, but it also could work pretty well for a VR headset.
Mm.
It's
Hmm.
just thinking about it from different lenses. I don't know where I'm going with this, Julie, but I can
No,
continue.
it's just fascinating because I don't know how design is works. I don't know how soft goods are made. And the idea that you're just creating parts that can be applied to different industry. Um, Tell me if this is correct, but my understanding is your client list is really broad. It's tech, apparel, footwear, health, automotive, furniture. So these are the things you use for all these industries? to put
Correct.
ideas together. It's fascinating, fascinating.
Yes. So a good example would be, um, you know, we've had a couple conversations where we were on a table, no drawings, just a feeling of what could be. And we would introduce some items. We'll call those little vignettes or moments. I call them material postcards. And Billy O uses these a lot in house. So we would make like a little postcard and we would have some of our favorite pieces to these postcards. And we would have thousands of these. And we would use these to think and feel what it may become. So let's imagine we're doing something like back then, it was 2015 we started the company. Virtual reality was still pretty much a plastic box in your head, more your face actually. And when we wanted to depart from that, the thought was actually from one of the clients. They brought a Lululemon pant, they brought a shoe, and then was we were working with Allbirds at the time. Sadly, they went under, I think, today. Jeez. But
Mm.
we were knitting with them, and they had some beautiful soles. And then we also had a bra, which we've designed for Gap, and that was built around biomimicry for a lily pad. Actually, it was pretty cool. It swells and it has encapsulation properties. It was really inspired by a lily pad. But we took those three things on the table, and we said we wanted to feel like that, we want it to look like that, and we want it to work like that. And so it's a melding of thinking, and then from there it started to grow, and then the idea evolved into a headset, if you will. But that's just an example of one thing we've done.
Can I ask you a side question on this? Because there are a lot of us who work in companies and we're always trying to have brainstorming sessions with our teams. And I feel like you might have a tip or two on ways to do that more effectively because it sounds like you don't have any restrictions in your workshops. So what piece of advice would you give to someone, whether it's someone on campus who's got a club they're trying to come up with ideas, or another executive who's working for a knowledge work company and they want to have a brainstorm session? What's the first piece of advice you'd give them?
I'd say materials first. I shun the post-it note myself. I see it blaring and more distracting than it is. uh, that's me personally. I prefer to if we brought things of value that have some sort of substance to share.
Mm.
I start with those conversations first, and then maybe a postcard later or something. But at the first step is just bringing something to the table that you can hold and show and tell, and I think conversation is the deepest part. Start there first, and then when when it's built through the lens of not knowing anything, I find out that it's better in the end.
Mm.
I, I, I fundamentally question a lot of the reality that we live in today. Like, for example, just because it's 100-year-old zipper doesn't mean it has to be that way. Just because the shoe is called the shoe and everyone buys the shoe, why not look at it like actually it's a lace that everyone needs to buy? I would prefer to make the lace.
So we really have to unlearn all these
Yep, you have to
preconceived
unlearn everything.
ideas that we bring in the door with us.
100%. Just because it's called a shoe, it I still think of it as a lace because it's the one thing that's holding it together. So the function of it actually isn't the shoe. So why are we apologizing every time we throw it in like an afterthought in the box every time, right? It's like, oh, I just received my new pair of shoes. What's this little thing that I got? It's like that little chamois in the claws you get from all those nice sunglasses. It's the
Yeah.
same to me. That's why the care cloth is so important. Yeah, it's really what you do with it, and we think of it all that way. So brainstorming, yeah, it's a good question. I wish, and I do invite you and everyone else at UPS to come and visit. It's a real special place, and we do a lot of workshops. So like the thing that we end up doing a lot with these collaborators and partners a lot of leaders, a lot of founders, a lot of education as well, and is that we host workshops to do those things for them. And we help them get into that space where they feel what we call chaos, controlled chaos, focus, and intense focus. So it's a 2-day thing. And we go from that duality. And then at the end, you've really lasered in a pretty good idea of what it is you're trying to accomplish. And only then can we really start to work on it.
We have to take you up on this workshop. Are you kidding?
It's a great
That's
workshop.
amazing. I would love to talk about kind of your journey, but do you feel like doing a quick show and tell? I know you have a bunch of items
Really?
around. Can we do a speed
I
round?
would love to. It's been so we don't do this ever, but since it's for UPS and it's for
Yay.
education and for the students, I think it'd be quite inspiring for them to see. So materials first, and it starts from that when you think of textiles, at least for me. Computers can't be built in a way like this forever. Okay. Plastic, glass, and aluminum, it just can't be like that forever. You can't put that in your pocket. You can't put that in your hand. So what you do is you create something first, in my mind, passive. And I look at the zipper as a real antiquated piece of technology that we've all just somehow just decided it was okay to live like that. So after building this bag, let me start with that. This is a really special bag to us. We wanted to look at it through the lens of a machine and a material before we didn't draw a thing. We just took yarn and looked at the inherent qualities of the yarn. So does it pull? Does it snap? Does it rebound? Does it stick? Does it twist? All those things. And we started to play with the tension. And in the process, we built something we call bilio bag. Let me show you. So bilio bag is 2 pieces. It's a fully knit to shape product. It has no seams to rip apart. It has no sewing. And it's manufactured with the mindset that you can make these on demand. Like they come off the machine, ready to go, fold them into place, done. You can make them in your backyard or you can make them in China. We chose the backyard. And you can make them just
It's
the
2
same.
pieces? That's it?
2 pieces. So it's one.
Is it the
You see
handle
there's
the
no
other one?
seams.
I've never seen anything like this. That's so
No,
cool.
no one has.
Wow.
It's folded
Okay.
like a certain pattern, but
Mhm.
it's all the straps are built into the body of the knit. And
Wow.
then the strap is born right out of
Oh, wow.
the fabric itself.
Interesting.
You see those little V's? That's the swallowtails. But the really unique part was
The zipper?
this is no zipper. There's a
Oh.
sliderless, it's sliderless. And that is because we built it with a magnet.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so
That's
this,
so cool.
yeah, this, let me see if I can, I've never really done a show and tell
What are
like
the 2
this.
pieces then? So one's the big large
Yeah,
piece. What's the
so,
second? Is it the magnet?
yeah.
That's cool.
So this is
Wow.
the thought. What if we built something that you could also repair? So at Patagonia, it was all about building the best product with the least amount of harm. That was it. That was the whole philosophy about how you design for Patagonia. Quality, everything was repairable, everything was guaranteed for life. But one of the greatest things that Yvonne and Team Tommy was you don't have to settle for something that's, you know, that is, if it's not right, let's just continue to make it as best we can until it is right. And one of the things we noticed was zippers are the number one thing that was causing failure on a lot of returns, but we had no control over that. So on wetsuits, when we were designing the wetsuits, you'd be at the mercy of the certain catalog that the zipper company gave you. But if you're surfing big waves, a zipper would blow out of your wetsuit and all of a sudden you're flushing in with water. It's quite dangerous too. But these days, there's a lot of things beyond human beings, like robots, that need to access certain things as well. So 10 years ago, my brother and I thought, why as well just start now? See where the world will end up in 10 years. But more importantly for humans, some people have tremors, some people have mobility issues, some people have a lot of problems just putting on a zipper. And I thought it's time to change that. And we did. So this essentially is the blueprint to Bilio's architecture. And this is inside. We have knit two holes. You can take it out and put it in, and it becomes a docking station as much as it becomes a closure. It's not even think it's called a zipper anymore. I think I call it loop tube or something like that. But these are the loops. See those little loops?
Yep.
They're very similar to those swallowtails, and then you can pull it apart and it comes together, but it's posable. So this is something quite unique in a bag. Oop, they're sticking to everything. This is what it looks like without it. You have a floppy, and then with it, you can shape it, and you can create your own structure. You know, so now you're left with either this, which is the floppy thing, which is its current state of a zipper, or you could actually create a whole bunch of different ways of building a product. The one that we're working on, though, has more of a thought around what if it was used for, a hanging system. So this is a great little cardigan. I love this cardigan. This is my favorite. But this, one of the other things is, what about closet space? This is a simple little piece of. Well, I'll put it right
Pull
there.
that a
Here.
little more onto the camera. That
Oh,
part's not
sorry.
showing. There you go.
So show and tell. I'm going to keep you guys excited.
I
This
know
is
this.
like, we've had these wooden hangers for so
Oh,
long.
oh my
So
gosh! Look
why
at
not just
that.
make it like a simple thing? Like you
Of
know?
course, yes.
So these are little things. This is architecture, and this is
Okay.
foundational to Bilio. So this is simply taking the logic of what we've done with the zippers, the loop, the tube, and the certain backing elements, the knits, and we can create a hanging system. But what's
Wow.
really unique is this could also have intelligence in it. So we could add some sort of conductivity or some wiring inside, and you can throw it inside the tube. So that's the big idea we're launching. And
That's
by
really cool.
September, I think it should happen. We've been working on it for quite some time.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
How many patents do you own?
It's a real heat seeking missile of a portfolio. It's not a lot, it's just quality. It's
Mm,
absolute quality. And
yeah.
we built it with that knowledge and that know-how, but we did it so long ago that we built onto the one fundamental piece of the physics that nature provides us, but also humans can create into other ways that isn't novel, but or that is novel, useful, and non-obvious, right? And that's the part that's hard to do. And when we looked at the applications, we spent a lot of time on not going super broad, but going to the point where you cannot go beyond, but it's fundamental you have to get to. It's the result of boiling it down to the pure essence of what it will be. And so we have about, when I was at Apple, great team there. I don't want to be like saying I did it all. I didn't. We did bands. I have about 5 patents there that I'm credited with other inventors on, such as the first iPhone case and the first band with haptic response, meaning it was like the first time to think of taking the haptic motor out of the actual watch and put it inside the band. It's kind of the first
Mm,
departure from going away from the screens.
mm.
And then at Bilio, we have maybe about 10 or so, maybe a little more now. Yeah. Some of these things you can continue.
Amazing. I really value just the holistic journey and the philosophy. This whole idea of slow growth, slow
Slow
manufacturing.
growth's the only way to do it. That's the only
Yeah.
way we can innovate at Bilio. We could do a lot of things really fast, and it's quite rebellious to do this the way we have, especially in Silicon Valley, Bay Area.
Yeah.
Everybody's what is it, fail fast and build quick and
Hmm.
all those things. I never thought that was useful. And I have a lot of respect to Patagonia to teach me that one.
How old were you when you started working
Oh,
with
so I was
materials?
in, I was living over there in Proctor, and no, was it Alder or something like that? Jeez, it was a house with a few friends of mine, and then we had a basement, and I had a sewing machine in my room, and it
In
was senior
college?
year, and I was doing art. I would skateboard down to like to get some food and then go out on the around the campus. I'd go hang out with some friends, but sewing in my room was kind of the first. I was doing it back before college even, but in high school. But that was the suitcase full of creations I drove down to Patagonia and knocked on the door a few times with. And that was summer of, or no, it was spring of 2007. And then I got the job, started working there right after, like 2 weeks after college, 2 weeks after graduation. Yeah.
So you had that signpost kind of early
I,
on that you needed to work with your hands and build something.
yes, I credit my mother and my father and, my brother too. My mom, they're all architects. My grandfather's engineer, and I believe there was just this great garage, wonderland that we grew up in, and
Mhm.
that became the space to do those things. And it all started though with just looking at it through this. I'll show you. This is the and during senior year in college though, the in the BLP program, there was a business plan that we did, and this was the business plan. It's called Sporting Sales. This was a misprint, by the way, but that's my brother skateboarding down Hawk Hill in San Francisco, and the idea was to use wind resistance to slow yourself down. Now you can engineer some crazy looking contraption to like break a wheel, or you could just use a simple piece of cloth that is in this shape, that is like a nylon ripstop, and just use air. And that's the philosophy that we started with. But this is the shape. Our first patented design was this, and this is essentially the connective tissue of bilio. It's working through tension. It's working through the dynamics of what that can be as a swallowtail through the entire future. And that was 20 years over. What? Yeah, 2006.
That's
Yeah,
amazing. So that was your BLP project.
that was my BLP project.
Let's talk a little bit about your time at Puget Sound. It sounds like when I spoke with you off camera that you dabbled in all kinds of activities when you're at school. What were some of them? And then how did all of this help lead you into where you are today?
Oh, great question, Julie. First off, it's a wonderful school. And, I love the hydrangeas and the rhododendrons the most in terms of the landscape. I love those. But I think in that prose sometimes. There is a really special feeling getting to the campus. And when I went there in summer, it was 2003. No, yeah, 2003. My parents were there, and I had a friend from high school join me. And I was fortunate enough, actually, I wrote a letter to the school to ask if he could get off the wait list. And I think it worked out. And then we became roommates. And I was supposed to swim for the school. And I was doing the beginning swimming. But that summer, I was surfing over here in what we call Fort Cronkite. And I was dropping in on a wave, and it just ripped up underneath my legs, came up, and then came down onto my arm, and it severed one of my triceps. So I have two biceps. And so I didn't tell the coach, and I showed up to swim. So that dabbled in swimming, and I was just not doing that well. So
Mm.
that didn't work out. But then I quickly was gravitated towards, during the orientation day, I think there was a couple things you can choose from. And one of them was arts and crafts. And I chose that. So that I ended up doing business and art. And yeah, I had a lot of fun. But I learned a lot about myself too along the way. I think that's part of the experience. because I didn't really know what I was going to do, but I knew that if I just kept following the craft of life, it was good.
Oh, I like that expression, the craft of life. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
really what you did. It seems like you still do. Didn't you also work at the radio station, KUPS,
Oh
for a
yeah,
couple?
KUPS.
Yeah.
So yeah, Matt and I had a great show. I think one time, I think we left a little dead air on there one time or two.
Oh, no.
I
Just leave the
don't. I think
studio.
he was. Yeah, I think we went across. We were at the cellar across the
Got some
hallway.
pizza.
Yeah, that was a big pizza break.
That's so funny.
But I remember it so well because, and then one time, so then Matt, he, it was so funny. He was, I don't know why he was whittling one day or something and cut his hand. So he couldn't do much of the changing. And so he made something called a helping stick. And so he was poking the buttons. And it was a great time. We had
Did you
so much
patent
fun.
that?
That's a great station, by the way. That is a
It
really
is.
good station.
It
It was
really is.
really good. When I go up to Seattle and Tacoma, I always put it on.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, let's talk about a couple of things. I want to get some advice from you now. You're a CEO, you're a founder, you clearly are creating massive impact in the world. I'm really enjoying learning about your philosophies. One thing I want to think about is consumers. We are a community of consumers in America, and I see how thoughtful you are being about design and product. So, what advice might you want to give consumers about making mindful decisions when purchasing goods?
Oh, that's a good one. You know, I always look at where it comes from and what the materials are first, and the carrot took to make it.
Mm.
You know, I think a story is more powerful than the purchase, and if it feels right and if it says something about you that you'd like the rest of the world to know, I think it's worth the buy. But usually I try to avoid buying things these days and more making things, but I find myself gravitating. So when I left school, I kind of just defaulted to a couple colors. And I don't know why, but it just got easier in the morning. So one of those things is coming up with something that makes you feel good every day, because when you do wake up you have a choice. But I don't think you have to buy anything that is built fast. I think you buy things once that you really love, and I would rather buy that, really, even if it's expensive. If you really know it's going to last, buy that.
It's so different from kind of the, I don't know, I don't want to downgrade any industry because I think they're just mirroring what the consumer's asking for. But we are in such a replaceable time in our culture. So it's nice to
Right.
hear that philosophy.
Well, it's so good to hear from you to ask the question, because in one of the things I remember at Patagonia was, can you repair it? Can you repurpose it? And can you reimagine it? And there's an initiative around that as a responsibility to the customer. And that was a pledge that created loyalty. And it was something that I never saw before in another company. So they had as much to say to their customers about what it is that they represent, for them to feel like they're involved in a way of then knowing what their responsibility is as well. And there's something to find in today's world, I think, in the tech space, that could use a lot of that. And I don't think it necessarily has to be such a permanent thing these days. I think there's a lot of opportunity to create a modular life between screens and no screens. And just because a screen is in front of us right now, there's something there in the future, I believe, that may
Be
not
nice to
happen
not
today.
have to replace my machine every 3 to 5 years too. That would be
Right.
nice. Yeah.
Right. And, my son, I have a son who loves Legos, and we build things and take them apart and rebuild them again. And I think my grandfather was in a lot of science clubs growing up. And, I think there's something missing in today's curriculum around stuff like that, where, you could learn how to make something again. I think he even was making like hot air balloons and like homemade contraptions, like
Mm.
fire, like fireworks a lot. But I don't know if you can get away with that today.
Yeah, that might be a little trickier. All right. Well, let's wrap things up with advice you have for young adults who are at Puget Sound who might want to get into your line of work, or just,
Oh,
you know what, let's make it broader. What advice do you have for young adults as they decide what career to explore and what to do next in their lives?
well, it's okay not to know. I think that's the first part. It's just, just be okay with that part to start. Because um, if you keep just going uh, and failing along the way, you'll succeed by just doing. Because the only time you do fail is when you just don't do anything at all. And I know this because I've failed so many times. And I get up each morning and I think about what it is I'm doing, and I'll keep doing that. And focusing on something is really important. There's a lot of things that happen through your life and through your day that aren't your main focus. So just do your best to stay on track and remember top three things. Maybe that's the best you can do that day. That's great. At least try to get that checklist going each day. And as you go through life, you'll find things coming to play. You know, it all lines up. In my work, though, there is something with relationships. It's not a school education type curriculum you can find. It's not really traditional. It's very tangible. It's very sensory. It's very intimate because you have to have access to these types of things that are very hard to get, and you have to know who to talk to. So be very kind to your, I don't call them vendors and suppliers, I call them partners. And a lot of times in life, as you go through these companies, as you move on to others, you keep those relationships. Even if they were once just supplying you some glue. No, they were part of the process of building that product from day one with you. And that's how I became in this position today. I credit a lot of the material partners that helped me build those products because I don't think they get enough credit.
All right. So if I'm going to summarize what I think I just heard you say, three things: slow down,
Yeah.
focus,
Yep.
and view people as partners.
Yeah.
Wow.
Relationships are it, and people matter, and planet. It's both of those. But yes, slow it down. Focus is the hardest thing. It's really hard to do. I am the worst at it.
Well, the world's set up to steal our attention everywhere.
I am the worst. But I try every day to focus on it. But it's so hard. But that is the truth. And then take it slow, and you'll fail so many times, but just know that that's okay because I don't know what I'm doing.
We don't. None of us do. It's a journey.
I try, and I do. I just do it.
I
Yeah.
guess I have one more question, and that's about University of Puget Sound. How did it help make you who you are today?
I have a lot of gratitude for the university. There's a routine in life that you go through, and I don't know if it's whether it's the atmosphere, it's the people, it's the values, the principles of the school. There was something comfortable there for me, and it's a unique place because I never saw another university in all my tours that had this a business leadership program. Really stood out to me. And the entrepreneurship aspect of it, I love the most. And I remember when I was doing an interview to Apple when they were asking if I would join or not, and I was debating, and I asked a question that I remember at the University of Puget Sound it would have been totally fine, and it was, are there any entrepreneurial and opportunities in this role? And they said, no, no, not. This is a role that's we have a vision 10 years in advance. So no. And so that was something I remember when I was like, oh, but I got right on board and I just said, sounds good. but it was one of those things I had back in school, and cherish that when you have it is what I'm saying. Cherish that because University of Puget Sound gave you those wings for sure.
Thank you, Billy. Billy Smith is founder and CEO of Billio. How can our people follow you or come to your property and do that workshop?
Oh, I'd love to talk with you all. So the best way to do it is to just go to bilio.com. That's bilio.com. And then simple page, I think it's 2 pages. And one of them is a form you could just reach out to me that way, and I'll be the one responding to you. And then I'm in Berkeley on 4th Street.
Wonderful. Thank you. It has been so great talking to you and learning
You
about
too,
everything.
Julie.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
All right. We're always looking for wonderful alumni who can tell their stories on this podcast. So if you know someone wonderful, please send me an email. My address is juliegates@pugetsound.edu. Thanks, Billy.
Thank you.